All right, Chair Gary Delvo. Here. Matt Sheila has to be excused. Alder Barbara Dorf has to be excused. Jim Blumreich. Here. Debbie Dane. Here. Kathy Hinkfist. Here. And Melanie Parma has to be excused.
Very good, we have a quorum. Approval of agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Jim and Kathy, all those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
So carried. Approval, a couple minutes, actually, three, hopefully I have a chance to put that on October 9th, October 19th, November 1st. Request a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Kathy, second by Deb. All those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, regular order, so carried. Regular order business. Consideration of possible action on termination of amended and restated development agreement for Watermark. Tax parcels 12 257, 12 358, 359, 360, 361, and 362.
All right. What's the public?
Do you have another one for,
Yep. You got one right there.
does he have one?
Yep.
Oh, we're here.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Very good.
All right, so we're talking about the Watermark property, which is the addresses that Mr. Delvo just read off. So the Watermark, if you remember a few years ago, we went through and had an amended and restated development agreement, which basically for us was a workout plan for the Watermark. Project started, didn't deliver in terms of where it meant to go with all of its development. And so we had 360 development out of La Crosse, Martin Wonders, Mark Kyle, come in, basically propose a plan to kind of take the half-completed project and start moving along.
Yes.
And so what you saw, with the addition of some first floor tenants, the stabilization of, the retail space in front, and then now, it's been pretty well public now since summer, they have an offer from Foxconn to purchase the property. And so with that, we're looking through and both parties are doing their due diligence in terms of creating this sale. And one of the things that we have governing this is the development agreement, and like most development agreements, if we're into the project, we generally declare consent before any transfer of property. And so we started looking through the development agreement, and both from our whole development team, myself, mayor, law, finance, and got to a point where we looked at the development agreement and found that the developer, in this case 360, and it's mentioned in here as River Vision Partnership, has fulfilled their obligations of that agreement. And what we have here is, if you look at, the biggest part is Section 2C of the original agreement, which states that the property, the assessed valuation of the property will be at least $7 million as of January 1st, 2019. And so went through, and as of January 1st of this year, that assessed value stood at about $6.8 million, which is pretty close. But we also realized that right now there are permits out for finishing off the third floor for ISG, which would like to move in hopefully early next year. And then, of course, Foxconn will be working on their build out. But even take out Foxconn, with the improvements that ISG is proposing, we feel both from looking at permits and also from talking with the assessor's office, and I think Diana is here, that value will hit 7+ million next year. And so therefore did not see a need to continue with the development agreement. In terms of just some of the other things, they said they were going to invest a certain amount of money in the property and do all those things. So with that, we have a recommendation to terminate the development agreement, keep appeals longer if necessary. What will come out of this, though, one thing that won't be terminated is there's a parking garage management agreement. And city staff and the director engineer is here. We'll work with both 360 and Foxconn to amend that agreement so that there's a partnership moving forward on that piece. So that'll be a piece that comes out of this, but it won't involve the RDA. So with that, feel that the developer did what they said they were going to do, and therefore
That's
there's
great.
not a reason for either the RDA or the city to have to keep this agreement in place. So,
If we approve the termination, it includes terminating the parking garage agreement.
what we have in here is the parking garage management agreement. One of the second page, it's
Yep.
stating that the developer and anticipated third-party purchaser, which in this case is Foxconn, will continue to work with the city on a parking garage agreement. That is, correct me if I'm wrong, Director Grenier, but that is their property. That is part of the property. We have been managing that for them over the
That
last
is
2
correct.
years.
I just want to get
Yep.
clear, so if we approve the termination of the agreement, it's in good faith that we reestablish a parking agreement subsequent to this action. Right?
Correct. And there's been discussions, we've been managing it. It is their property. If they want to take it over and manage it themselves, they are entitled to do that.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying, in terms of a parking strategy, trying to work something out that's beneficial for all parties.
Kind of off the subject a little bit, but I read, Mayor, that you had some communication recently with Foxconn?
Oh, yeah,
Good. It's looking good. Everything's looking good.
like
Good.
Dr. Vaughn said, they've been in to talk about the parking agreement, and we're gonna see how that pencils out. They're happy with it.
Excellent.
We want to close on this property,
Yep.
and there's just some loose ends. You were here, it's a very complicated deal when we put it together.
Yep.
So, they're committed to the community, and we're committed to them, and this is just one box we need to check. But,
Fantastic. Fantastic.
But yes, they've been great to work with.
No need to go into closed session.
No, I don't think so. Now, I entertain a motion.
I'll move to terminate the amended and restated development agreement on the Watermark project.
And I will second.
Motion by Jim, second by Kathy. Any other discussion or comments? If not, we will vote. He can terminate contract because everything's been done like it's supposed to be done.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Passed unanimous.
Fantastic, okay. Second agenda item, consideration with possible action to purchase real estate at 227 North Quincy, 221 North Quincy, oh boy, and all kinds of fine streets, 624, 626, 618, 616, and 605 Cherry Street, parcels 11-156, 11-157, 11-158, 11-159, 11-160, and 11-191. Background.
Yes, so in short, we are talking about the Associated Bank parking lot. If you can look at the parcels, it's basically the blocks bounded by Monroe, Cherry, Pine, and Quincy Street.
The old farmer's market.
Yep, so it's just right outside the window here. With that, we have an opportunity to look at acquiring that property. And I think it would be appropriate at this time in terms of conducting some negotiations and looking at our strategy that would move into closed session. And with that, hopefully come out with a recommendation and direction for RDA and the city to proceed in potentially acquiring this property.
I had a request from the county to say a few words, so it's up to the group if we want, before going to closed session, to open up to the public. Why not?
Sure.
Yeah. Move to open up.
Okay. Second by Kathy. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are in open session, please.
Thank you. My name is Greg Gerbers. I'm the risk manager for Brown County and acting deputy corporation counsel. I just want to get some perspective from the county's standpoint about that property. As you may know, the county actually recently acquired that property from Associated Bank, subject to the potential of the city having an option. It took us quite a while to negotiate that agreement for a number of reasons. One of which is that it's an old gas station site, and so we currently have an agreement with Associated Bank. Under our agreement, Associated remains liable for any contamination cleanup that's required during that time. I'm not certain, and I blankly say I have no idea what agreement Dr. Vonk and the mayor have come up with Associated or anything they talked about. But some things I want to consider before you make your decision. Additionally, when we look at this, if there is a signed agreement to develop that property, that changes our position on it. We're all in favor of developing downtown Green Bay. Anything development that's good for Green Bay is good for the county as well. We're very much in favor of that. If what you're doing is buying it to hold it, that's where we have, we have some concerns. One, if you're buying it to create additional parking spots, one of the things we're going to do with that lot is move a number of county-owned vehicles out of that area so that we can we're moving our health department from the Broadway location down to the Sophie Beaumont. There's no secret about that. That opens up some parking spots to make better access for the community to get to our health department, access for vaccinations, child health care, rather, things like that. That's one of our goals with that lot. Additionally, we would be opening up a number, if the concern is the city needs more parking, we do expect there would be over 200 spots that would be available for county employees to park there, that would open up parking in the city lots. We understand there's potentially a loss of revenue, but we also understand that there's a concern whether the city has enough parking currently right now. From our perspective, we worked very hard on this agreement to make it a good fit for everybody. I wanted to stress that Associated Bank retains in our agreement. I mean, our agreements took a year and a half because they're about 2 inches thick. The agreements, I think the mayor's office received them last week for an open records request. But during that, Associated Bank also retains the right to market. And there's a brief time where, I shouldn't say brief, there's a time where we get the guarantee that we have it, but Associated Bank retains the right to market, and if a development came through, our understanding is always we were not going to stand in the way of a development of that property. And so, from our perspective, if it is something where there is a development ready to go, signed agreement, that changes our analysis completely. We're all for development. However, if it's going to be a buy and hold, we think that the risk, as we've negotiated it, is minimal. And I don't know if Associated offers those same protections to the city on an outright purchase.
Okay.
So that's all I have.
Good comments.
Thank you.
If you spent a year and a half on it, you knew we had an option on it.
What's that?
You knew we had an option on it. Why
Yeah,
did you?
no, I absolutely
Why
do.
did you talk to us?
At the time, we didn't know about the option.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't know, personally, I didn't know
Oh.
about the option until we were pretty far into the game.
Right.
Yep, it was probably in the last 2 months before the actual closing that we were made aware of the potential option.
Do you understand how we think you tried to undermine us on that?
I can tell you this, that I started with the county about 2 years ago, and I know that looking back at old files, we had started talking about that. And quite honestly, we asked Associated Bank for a written copy of the option so we could make the determinations whether this was a good deal or not. We had no intention of undermining you in that. I can understand that perspective.
Why not even a phone call across the street to us when you knew we had an option for a set price? We're not negotiating with Associated.
We don't even know, we didn't know.
Yes,
it
you
had
did
ever
have
closed
that.
price.
You didn't have it.
Right,
Your
I didn't
boss
have
did.
it.
Okay.
Uh,
And we're gonna trust you that you're gonna vacate that when we want you to? I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Anybody else, otherwise, motion to get back to regular business?
So moved.
Jim and Kathy, get back to regular business. All in favor, Jim saying aye.
Aye.
We're back to regular business. I suggest that we do go into closed session.
I'll make a motion with possible action that we go into closed session to purchase real property at 227 North Quincy Street, 221 North Quincy Street, 624 through 626 Pine Street, 618 Pine Street, 616 Pine Street, and 605 Cherry Street, tax parcels 11-156, 11-157, 11-158, 11-159, 11-160, and 11-191. The authority may convene in closed session pursuant to sections 19.85 sub 1 sub E Wisconsin statutes for the purposes of deliberating or negotiating the sale of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business as necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The authority may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.85 sub 2 Wisconsin statutes to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
To the motion by Jim, second by Kathy. Roll call?
All right, Gary Delvaux.
Yes.
Jim Bloomer.
Yes.
Debbie Dean. Kathy Nicholas.
Yes.
So we are in closed session.
We are in closed session.
All right, Gary Delvaux.
Yes.
Kathy Nicholas.
Yes.
Debbie Dean.
Yep.
Jim Bloomer. Yes.
We are back in open session. All right, we have good discussion. I think we're ready for a motion.
Yes, I make a motion to authorize the staff to conduct all actions necessary to purchase real property at 227 North Quincy Street, 221 North Quincy Street, 624 to 626 Pine Street, 618, 616, and 6 Pine Street, and 605 Cherry Street. Tax parcels 11-156, 11-157, and 11-158, 11-159, 11-160, and 11-191 at a cost not to exceed $1.2 million.
Second.
The motion and a second. I actually want to add one thing. We got some real good cash flow information that makes this a very good step for the city.
Yes.
Okay, there's motion and a second. We shall vote. Anyway, any other discussion or comments? If not, we shall vote. Plus I lost her. Which screen unlocked? Okay, I'm unlocked.
Motion carried unanimously.
Very good, thank you. Thanks for everybody's input. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yep.
Still a side note,
Yes, please. Yep.
they demolished Admiral
Yeah, that was a big deal a year ago.
Yeah, they found out like after they demolished it, that was his property.
Oh, wow.
Over in the northeast corner there.
Yep.
Don't think anyone's-
I'm like, could have asked anybody in the neighborhood, they would have told you.
Item number 3, consideration of possible action to authorize final payment for Shower and Schumacher heating contract with AMA Heating and Air Conditioning in the amount of $7,533.50.
Hello.
Oh, there it is, I'm sorry.
Do we have heat?
This is very complicated as well, so Shower and Schumacher installed.
Do I need to get more coffee?
Yes. No, we went off a contract that you approved in October for $75,000 to put in a heating system in the Shower and Schumacher as part of the building's preservation. The furnaces were installed. They are flexible in that they can be used or moved and reused in the building if we gray box it out or do whatever we do in the future, or we sell it outright. This is authorization for final payment for that job. So everything's put down, all the...
This pretty much what you estimated or thought it was going to cost?
Exactly right.
Oh, very good.
I make a motion that we move to make the final.
Motion by Kathy, second by Deb. Eileen, vote online?
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent.
Passed unanimously.
Great, thank you. Number 4, consideration of possible action design approval for the multifamily housing project, Friar House Flats, located at 645 South Irwin Avenue. I seen that, I looked at the design. I just, okay.
Okay, so back in 2017, the authority, the RDA approved an award of $100,000 worth of home funds to rehab the Friary building and then create new townhomes over in that area.
That's
As
what's
part
being
of-
married, right?
Yep.
Yep.
As part of that agreement, there was the contingency on there that it needed to come back for final design approval through the RDA. So we have the final designs. They submitted that, and so we brought it back to you for final approval. We do have the architect here if you would like to ask
Okay.
any questions.
And they have worked cooperatively with staff. We've
they made a number of adjustments and changes throughout the process. We think it's pretty close to the original submission that they made. We wanted to make sure that, because the lower pictures, the design will be facing, it's kind of that awkward site behind St. Mary's Church.
Yes.
So that's really going to be facing the tree line and the fence line on Cass.
Correct.
So even though it's not visible, from driving on the street, we still wanted to make sure that, God forbid, something would happen on a tree line, that, we wanted a nice product for the neighborhood.
Right.
And that was a promise that we made, working with the neighborhood, that we would make sure that the design was a fitting design.
They look really nice.
So the exterior down up at lower level there, it's going to be all one color? Or any breakup at all in colors, or just all one?
I believe it's all in color.
Yeah, it was.
With there's
There's
some
red.
dimension.
Yeah,
We have a representative here from the
Yeah, it's going to
Priory, if
be
you'd like
one
to
color.
open it up and
Okay.
we can maybe talk about the design a little bit.
Yeah, why don't we open it up?
Mm-hmm.
A motion by Jim, second by Deb.
Yep.
All in favor, someone say aye.
Aye.
We are in open session, please go on.
Sure. Yeah, so the siding would be essentially one color. The shakes, so there'd be materialistic changes along the way. And then accent bands, trim color would all be like a white or something completely contrasting to it. So there'd be some breakup.
No breakup, okay. Okay, I know it was one of our concerns when we first talked about this, that we wanted to have some variety or some breakup.
Sure, yeah, and if that's something that staff wants to do, we can certainly look at.
Cheryl, you're comfortable?
We are, one of the things we actually directed them to the neighboring townhomes as an example of,
Absolutely.
How to maybe break up the windows with different colors, and they took that in hand and brought back a design that had those elements included in it.
Okay.
So as staff were comfortable with the design.
That's very important.
Yeah, I think our, initial concern was we had a plan unit development pass that had some renderings on. Again, time has passed, and construction costs have changed and things like that. And there's also some code things, like the initial ones had like sets of 3 windows.
Yes.
Well, realized like building code, like those aren't big enough for ingress egress, so we went to sets of 2. But look overall at like the glazing or the amount of window space there is, it's actually more in this one. And, our biggest thing was when we took through and then took this through plan commission initially, the neighbors on the other side of the street that are looking at this, what are they going to be looking at? Granted, it's going to be behind a lot of vegetation, but ultimately that might not be there forever. So does this fit in with the scope and scale of the neighborhood? And we feel with the pitches and the relief and things that it does. And so
Good.
staff has been satisfied.
So,
Yes, Deb.
I just do need to disclose that I do work for WEDA. This was a WEDA tax credit project, right? And even though right now we're just going to be rolling on a design element.
Right.
I do have to just disclose that relationship. And then another question, is there any townhomes that will be facing Barrett? No.
Yes.
There are,
Yep.
around the corner.
There's 8.
Yeah, so there's a 12 unit with a public clubhouse on the left there. And then along
That's what I
Barrett
thought.
is
Mhm.
is a smaller one, the 8 unit.
Right.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments, or we'll go back to regular business?
Move to return to regular business.
Second.
Hey Kathy, all in favor, someone saying aye?
Aye.
We're back to regular order business. Entertain the motion.
I'm going to try it. Entertain a motion to approve the design for the Friar House flats.
Motion.
Second.
And a second by Jim to approve the design for Firehouse Flats at 645 South Railroad Street.
Passed unanimously.
Excellent. Thank you. Number 5, consideration of possible action approval of using $30,000 program CDBG public service funding to support the newly created housing and zoning enforcement coordinator position. Who is that?
Combo.
Tom?
So this is a new position we created as part of our reorganization. We eliminated a middle manager when we went through the reorg and was able to create this kind of an oversight position that's going to handle nuisance properties, Is going to concentrate, we've had some rat issues in the city, so that person's going to really concentrate on, hotspot and proactive enforcement within these areas. So this is a brand-new position, housing and zoning enforcement coordination position. In the past, we've been able to fund this in part with block grant. It's a new position, at least for the first year. And then as we move forward in the process, we'll probably be asking that this be fully funded on the levy. But for the first year, we'd like to use $30,000 of some block grant dollars that we have available in order to fund this position.
I think a lot of the work that this individual will be doing in terms of the coordination and when it comes to nuisance abatement and rants and things like that are going to occur in many of our eligible census tracts, and will be felt in terms of appropriate amount of funding. And really, that's one of the first priorities of this position, to deal with some of those. Again, this is Director Rooney said, I mean, our goal is to get this probably fully on the levy eventually, but right now, I think, just in terms of helping us make our budget and then spending down some of these block grant funds, and we've had some other changes where we're not using block grant funds to fund other positions, that this would be an appropriate use for our, what, 2018 dollars?
Yes.
And the position would start.
January 1, I think we would probably start with this.
Can you define nuisance properties from?
Nuisance property is a property that we've had multiple complaints on through inspection and or police department. So it's kind of one of those gray areas, but it's one that's it's a city resource issue, where it's not just a 1 and out for inspectors. Now it's 3 and out. And 4, or no response whatsoever.
Right.
Or maybe it's a bank-owned property, that the bank is in Texas.
Yeah.
And someone's walked. No, it's a vacant zombie property.
I
All
think
those
it's-
types of.
The ones that we can name by address.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I mean, and I realize that. I mean, I do realize that
Mhm.
that's it. It's just that
So-
much of this has been complaint-driven. So I think this would be more proactive.
Correct. And this
Yes.
person also has the capacity to educate, so the
Right.
plan is to have them
Mhm.
go out, do some neighborhood association work with, and which happened actually with the rat situation we had. Complaints are down this year, yay. With just educating people on what to do, have better handle things, so.
So what's the long-term solution for this position? In other words, this can be made for 1 year, probably $30,000, I'm just guessing, whatever. So long-term, are we going to get it in the budget? In the city budget?
I feel like that's the goal, is to work that to be onto the levy 100%.
Okay. But
So
right
we've
now-
done that, our compliance inspector position, for example, was half funded with block grant, half on the
Yes.
levy, and then now that's fully funded on the levy, so we've
Alright.
done that with other positions in the past and welcome them.
So that is the long-term solution.
Right.
So in the current budget that was just approved, you went down a position,
We
a middle manager position?
have the same number of employees, but we changed management or supervisory responsibilities for 2 positions.
Right.
Okay, so is this an add to staff?
There is no net number increase of people.
Okay, is there a net number increase on funds?
No.
No, because we're going to hire, for example, now, we're going to hire a principal planner position that is not going to have management attached to the job. It's going to be simply a principal planner. Those management positions are being picked up by Director Bonk and myself, overseeing neighborhoods and planning.
Well, and I think to also be able to, how are we going to measure the effectiveness and whether or not you want this to go on the levy in the future? What do those nuisance properties look like?
Well-
Because I think just what you're describing is going to be a tough job.
Well, and it's one we've
I
been
mean-
doing. It's not new to us. It's not new
Exactly.
to us, so we're adding those proactive efforts on top of it, which we're working into more education in that piece. I think this position will be good to actually look at quantifiably, because we'll be able to track those particular properties.
You do have data.
We have data
Right, that's
through our,
kind of
you know,
exactly
through our
what I'm
Eclipse
saying.
housing system, how many citations, how many properties. So there's a way to track what's happening with those properties through the system, so.
We'll have to track it because of the funding source. The 30,000 of block grant.
Because of block
It needs to
grant.
be
Okay, great.
recorded.
That's
so.
good.
Right, well, that then will also help you get it through in the future.
Yes.
Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion made by Jim, second by Kathy. Any other questions or comments?
You can't blow snow with a lawnmower? No.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm already on to the next one, reading and going with mine.
There we go, passed unanimously.
I tried.
Thank you.
I tried
Excellent.
picking up leaves. with
Number
snow
6,
on the-
consideration
on
of
the
possible
lawn.
action on lawn care services contract, RFQ number 3096.
All right, so staff is looking to award a lawn care service contract to the lowest responsible bidder. Last month, we asked to award the snow removal contract, and we've done that. By request of Alder Johnson, staff looked at putting both the lawn care and snow removal on the same contract. At this time, we would like to award the lawn care service contract for 2019 separately still, before we determine what we should do for 2020. The price that came back for the snow removal, we got one quote back, and prices went up by $1 per lot, which is basically consistent with what we've had on contract increases in the past. So staff feels that by keeping the contracts separate, we'll get more responses for the lawn care, and hopefully that'll bring the lawn service price down. Yeah, so.
Right, because wasn't that a concern that so many people were wondering when that contract came open? And you only got one back?
We got one back for the snow removal. And so from talking with a few contractors, the snow removal is really what kept people from bidding on the lawn service. Whereas there are people out there who do the lawn service but don't ever want to touch snow at all.
Sure.
So I've been working closely with purchasing on this. Jackie's actually here as well. And we're all on the same page with keeping them as separate contracts.
Okay.
And then, you know, if, depending on how the numbers come back for this contract, look at just doing the 4-year extension, the 4 one-year extensions for both the snow removal and the lawn care.
So the bottom line recommendation is to allow staff to award the lawn care services contract, RFQ 3096, the lowest responsible bidder.
Correct. And then we'll come back with some numbers just to fill you guys in on what we want to do to go forward with those for awarding or renewing those in the future. So.
Move to approve.
Motion by Jim, second by
Kathy?
Yeah. Okay.
So many choices.
Yeah, so many choices, right. Any other questions or comments? If not, we will vote. Informational.
Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Informational financial report, check register, I've looked at, I'm comfortable with it, anybody else any comments on that? Director's report and project updates.
Busy?
Yes, I guess you sure are. Anything going on?
Yeah, we will still, even though there's not a council meeting, we'll still plan to meet in December. I think there's a few RDA specific items that we can handle or talk about, doing that maybe don't need to go to council approval until January. So we'll still plan on a meeting. As I mentioned, TWG had asked that their development agreement be postponed until next year. I know we talked about coming out of this meeting before the end of the year, but they just made that request, make it a little more advantageous for them to do some things after the first of the year. So we should have that early in 2019.
Good. And they asked to us, no, we want that bonding report.
Yes, that will be coming in December.
In December,
Yes.
okay, because I have the
I
same
know.
question.
And because we had such a full agenda, you asked me to wait 2 weeks.
No, that's fine, I
Yes, that's
agree.
fine. Okay, next meeting, December 11th, motion to adjourn. Any other comments or questions?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Kathy, all in favor, signal saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, guys. Terrific
Nice
meeting.
job.
Great
guys.
meeting.
Really nice job.
Very good. Very good. Very important stuff.
Thanks.